So we will be having the weekly attendance form, and we would encourage you, please don't feel for anybody, because we have evidence of those who are in class and we'll be able to map it all. We just want everybody, if you say you went through this training, you should be able to have value to show for being a part of the training. Thank you. Next slide is there will be weekly check-ins. You are free to schedule weekly check-ins for questions and any support you may require on the program, or for those of you who are doing HR, you are having some challenges while at work. Please, you are free to share with us, and once we will be available, as it were, to support you. That's what it simply means. Weekly check-ins, you'll be available to get things done through us, and we'll support you. Feedback, you'll be kindly requested to complete a final survey at the end of the program. Certification, there's provision for issuance of certificate to interested participants at the end of the program. Certificates will only be issued to successful applicants. Now, by successful, we mean those who are able to fulfill 75% of attendance in class. The fact that you have started does not mean you are entitled or eligible to certificate. Networking opportunities, will be creating platforms. In the next few weeks, we're launching a learning management portal online that will have several courses, and the members of this first cohort will have the opportunity of getting 1, 2, 3, or 4 courses free on that platform when it comes. Of course, we're also available to provide ongoing support to anyone who may require such from time to time. So meet your facilitators. You know me, my name is Kayode Johnson, lead consultant, the BRT Consult. And up till August or early this month, I was the chief people and culture of the 1 Square Meter by Dan Tata, is a real estate company. Then that's me. Next to me, we have Damilola Ilori. She's the HR manager of Nigeria Health Watch. Nigeria Health Watch is an expression of the NCDC. It's just to keep track of details about health issues in Nigeria. It's an NGO. Then we have Mr. Komolafe Gabriel. He's the group HR manager of Reddington Hospitals. A few people may know him. He's been a long-time friend. We did our MBA together in 2009, and we've been in touch ever since. Even when I was in St. Nicholas Hospital as HR manager, we've always shared ideas. Then we have Mr. Shola Adetiba. He's the HR manager of GMT Plus Integrated, and of course, he has his own company that he also, consulting firm that he also runs by the side. He is based in Abuja. Mr. Gabriel is based in Lagos. Ms. Damilola Ilori is based in Abuja. Then last but not the least is Mr. Deji Adebowale, who also happens to be going through this program with us, as it were. Deji Adebowale is the HR manager of St. Nicholas Hospital in Lagos. We both worked together at National Orthopedic Hospital in 2003 and in 2013 as admin stroke HR officers. We were colleagues. Then at some point when I was HR manager at St. Nicholas Hospital, he came to join me, and he took over from me in St. Nicholas Hospital as the HR manager. So these are the people that will be sharing and rubbing minds with us. And from time to time, as we get some of our other professional colleagues who have time on their hands and they want to share with us, of course, we'll bring them in. So the team brings more than 7 decades of combined professional years of experience across healthcare, construction, real estate, agribusiness, not-for-profits, that's NGO, faith-based organizations, consulting, and training sectors of the Nigerian employment space. We have worked across board, different environments, so we're coming with experiences. Some have worked in educational institutions, so we're coming with how is HR practiced in healthcare? Is it the same thing? Is it the same way it is practiced in real estate or construction or agribusiness? So for those of you, I know you are coming from different backgrounds, you'll be able to share those ideas and see how it runs. This is where the orientation session ends. At this point, I would like to ask, do you have any question about what has been shared so far before we proceed? If you have any question, please drop it on the group and we'll take it up from there. Questions? Okay. For those that can't join or see the link, visit this page. Okay. Tap on the name you would. So just click on HR Coaching Hub that drop that message. Go there, then you can join if you still can't see it. Okay, I guess there is no question, so we can go to our session 1, our week 1 program, which is Introduction to HR Management. At this point, if you like to talk, drop it in the chat, then I'll unmute you here. Okay, what are the objectives of this session? We want to be able to understand the fundamental concept of human resource management and its development. What is the meaning of human resource management? What are the goals of human resource management? What are the philosophies behind HR? Underpinning theories of human resource management, reservations about human resource management, what models of HR management exist, and where is HR management today? This is a quick summary of what we'll be doing today. So I want it to be very engaging since we have some people who have done HR before. So I'm starting with, what is HR? What is HRM? Is there any difference between the two? So let me look for, I can at some point call on names. I will start from there. What is HR? What is HRM? Is there any difference between both? Who wants to talk? What is HR? What is HRM? Is there any difference between both? Who is talking? I can ask anyone. There's no wrong answer. We are just sharing ideas. And because we are sharing ideas, who wants to talk? I think I'll call Mrs. Omotunde Johnson. That's my wife. So Mrs. Omotunde Johnson, let's hear you.
Good day, everyone. My understanding of it is HR means people, and HRM means management of people, being able to manage people.
Thank you. She stole my brain yesterday. Now she's using it against me. At work, most times you hear people call you HR. And you're just like, I don't know if you're like me. I'm just like, why are you calling me HR? Because HR simply means people. Another way, for example, if you want to say I'm an HR manager, you say I'm a people manager. It's as simple as that. So HR means people. So I want you to know that HR management, every time we talk about HR management, it's about people management. So what we are here to talk about is how to effectively manage people. So HRM is actually the management of people, like she said, and the only difference is that there is management in the HRM. So the M is to manage the HR. So we need to understand now. These are basic understandings that you should know. But it will shock you that when we begin to get to certain places and we begin to talk, when you say what is human resources and people begin to define human resource management. No, human resource means people. And if you check text, very real text, they hardly use human resources except they are talking about a combination of people. You see them use human resource. A lot of us mix it. We say human resources manager. But you begin to realize that human resource is what people talk about because it's now more like you begin to focus on individuals because there are no two individuals have the same needs, regardless of what the system or the arrangement may speak around. So fundamental concept of HRM is that human resource management is concerned with all aspects of how people are employed and managed in organization. All of it. all of it. When we get to recruitment and selection, we will need to separate between a hiring manager and the recruitment manager. Because most times we mix these things up. For those of us who are into HR, we mix them up to say, no, the recruitment manager is the hiring manager. No, the hiring manager is the line manager who is going to work with that person. There, the recruitment manager is a recruitment function that sits with HR. So we need to be able to separate both. That's why everybody has a role to play in recruitment. So we say HR management, human resource management is concerned with all aspects of how people are employed and managed. So you are concerned about how to source for talent. You are concerned about how to engage the talent. You are concerned about how to utilize the talent. You are concerned about how to maintain the talent. So you source, you engage, you utilize, and you maintain the talent. That begins to speak to the entire employee life cycle. And we all need to know that at this point. Says the term HRM has largely taken over the personnel management. You know, when I did my course, I graduated from Unilag. My department there was called Industrial Relations and Personnel Management. So when I tell you, when you ask me what did you study in your first degree, I say I studied Industrial Relations and Personnel Management. Now I learned that they've changed the name of the department. But HR has evolved over time. It started from labor administration to staff labor administration, staff administration, personnel administration, personnel management, human resource management. Some people are already using human capital management. Some people are already using people and culture management. Some people are already using people operations management. So you realize that the evolution is so unique and dynamic that it is perceived differently in different environments depending on the culture and how the place is structured. It was Google that first came up with people operations. And the person published a book and bam, everybody's, now you are hearing agile people operations. All those things are just terminologies. You just need to understand the uniqueness of what you are doing and you are able to take it up from there. Personnel management, which took over that of labor management in the 40s, which took over that of welfare in the 20s. The latter process emerged in the munitions factory of the First World War. Okay, let's talk. You see, you've heard about the Industrial Revolution, right? And all these things have implication for HR practice. Industrial Revolution came as a result of the World Wars, both the First World War and the Second World War. During the World Wars, it was realized that there was need for more productive capacities. So people that were literally doing things in silo in their houses realized that they needed to expand their production capacity. So the person that was managing 10 employees before suddenly has to employ 100. And the way you were managing the 10 can no longer be effective in managing the 100. That's what has led from labor, that's what has metamorphosed over the years, from labor administration to labor management to all those things. The need is as a result of the evolving nature of work. Then after the World War II, you begin to realize and see the vivid expression and emancipation or emergence of what you call industrial relations today. That's when collective bargaining, people begin to organize along a line and begin to speak for themselves. And that began to force employers to begin to rethink how they are structured. And at some point we get to the theoretical framework where you see some of these things I'm talking about. So HRM largely replaced the human relations approach to managing people founded by Elton Mayo in 1933. Of course, how many of us can remember the Elton Mayo series of experiments? One of it was the Autumn experiment and all those things. Now, what is it? It is based its beliefs on the Autumn studies, which believed that productivity was directly related to job satisfaction, and that the output of people would be high if someone they respected took an interest in them. I don't know if you can remember this, one of these studies they did, the Autumn experiment, where people were working in a place and they reduced the intensity of light, the brightness of the place. they saw the level of productivity they had. Then when they increased the illumination and the brightness of the place, they realized that they were able to do more. That was one. Then there was another one they did, that whenever they want to give food to a particular cow, they will ring the bell. And after a while, whenever they ring the bell, whether food is coming or not, they'll be salivating, because in the mind has been programmed to say, look, every time this bell rings is because food is coming. And those are the fundamental theories and perspectives behind employee motivation, or what you call organizational behavior. So it says an early reference to human resources was made by Beck in 1966 and later Armstrong 1977, which observed that in an enterprise, the key resource is people. You see, when we were in secondary school economics, factors of production. How many of you can still remember factors of production? The factors of production, they begin to tell you land, capital, entrepreneurship, and labor. And they always put labor last until it gets to a point that everybody begins to say, you know what? It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how large the expanse of land you have and how good you are as an entrepreneur. If you don't have the labor, if you don't have the right mix of people to work and to help you convert your raw materials into finished goods, you would just have succeeded in wasting your money. So that is actually the fundamental concept of HR and its development is centered around organizing about how to manage people effectively for productivity, for productive purposes. So what is human resource management? It says here, now these are extracts from the textbook, from the chapter you are supposed to have read for today, which is chapter 1. It says human resource management is concerned with all aspects of how people are employed and managed. We said that earlier. Sorry. No, we've looked at it. Sorry. Goals of HRM. Now, no. Sorry, we mixed a couple of things in. HRM defined. Human resource management can be defined as a strategic. I need you to note the word strategic, integrated, and coherent. I need you to note those three words. I'll speak to them in a couple of minutes' time. He said it's a strategic, integrated, and coherent approach to the employment, development, and well-being of the people working in organizations. Now, let me explain to you when you say something is strategic, what does it mean? When you say something is strategic, it means that it affects everything that has to do with the organization. When we say we have a strategic plan, what are we saying by having a strategic plan? It means that we have a plan that affects everyone from the top of the organization to the base of the organization. And what that simply means is that whatever you do as an HR professional, it must be strategic in nature. It must be strategic in nature in that it would have implications for everything that has to do with employees and the organization. So it must be strategic, integrated. Integrated means that it's not a stand-alone process. It's a process that plugs into a couple of systems and processes. That's why we call it a system. Human resource management is a system. A system is a collection of subsystems. Subsystems are collection of various components. So human resource management is not effective if it's not strategic, if it's not integrated, and if it is not coherent. It must be clearly captured and must be clearly communicated. That's why the two major functions of an HR professional in any organization, regardless of what policies you have, is your ability to communicate effectively and to bring everything and everybody into alignment. So you see, communication and alignment are two things you would have to do from time to time. If I should ask you, look at the things you have done. Every time you are planning performance appraisal, what do? All you are trying to do is to make sure that everybody understands what you want to do, right? And you communicate it, and you want to ensure that all managers do that thing the way it's expected to be done. So it is all about alignment and communication. Now, it says coherent approach to the employment development. One thing is, most times we think after employing the people, what we do most times as HR professionals is we employ the people and we abandon them. But employment itself is the first step towards bringing people into the organization. The development part of it is the very important part of it. And by development, we mean, do you provide coaching? Do you provide mentoring? Do you provide training opportunities? Whether it's training on the job, whether it is off the job training, do you provide opportunities for people to learn? Are there carefully developed operating procedures? Are there policies guiding this job that help these people to get better? All those things added together forms the developmental phase of an employee's experience in your organization. I have seen people leave organizations that pay well because they felt there's no room for development. And I've seen people stay in organizations that doesn't pay so much because they could see opportunities for development and growth. And at a later time, yes, they can move. Everybody wants to develop. Everybody wants to get better. And you need to pay attention to that as an HR person. Your own should not be, it's your manager that should face it. No, you should hold every manager accountable for the development of every staff that you have seconded into their department. You need to know every staff in an organization is owned by the HR department. They are only seconded to the department where they are working. So you own the staff and they need to treat your staff very well. So you must hold managers accountable. And well-being, of course. Here we begin to talk about wellness. We begin to talk about work-life balance. We begin to talk about things that makes our employees feel good. We begin to talk about diversity, equity and inclusiveness. Those are the things we begin to think about here. What are the things that get these people stressed? What are the things that get my people worked up? How can I make life better and easier for them? Those are the things you need to think. If you are not bothered about those things as an HR professional, at this point, you are not doing HR. You are just doing yes, sir, to whatever the boss wants you to do. So it says, according to Boxall and Pochel, HRM is defined as all those activities associated with the management of employment relationships in the firm. Please note, all those activities. And all those activities involves you recruit them, you give them the offer letter, you give them orientation and you onboard them seamlessly. You ensure there's provision for health care according to the law. That's health insurance. Group life insurance according to the law. Everything that they are supposed to be entitled to, their development, their punishments, everything, all activities associated with the management of that employment relationship is what HR management is all about. So don't let people deceive you that HR is all about hire and fire. Some people believe that the moment you have recruited them and they go to the department, HR has no business with that staff again. It's a lie. Everywhere I had worked, I had held managers accountable for how they have treated people under them. I've sat at management meetings and they've said to me, why are you defending these people against their managers? And I said, because the managers themselves are not doing the right thing. And because as an HR professional, you are an advocate. You are the people's advocate and you are meant to defend the people. Now, it says HRM is the managerial utilization. See, you see the word manager. Managerial utilization of the efforts. What the staff are bringing to your organization are their efforts based on the experiences they have. They want to put in effort into making your organization better. Utilization of the efforts, knowledge, what they knew before they joined you is the reason you felt they were the best when you were interviewing them. Capabilities, what are they capable of doing? and committed behaviors. At this point, we're beginning to now move into behavioral tendencies. There are certain jobs that if you know someone is a snob, you can't keep them on certain jobs. It doesn't matter how smart and eloquent the person is. So when you want to begin to think about it, there are certain behavioral tendencies you required of people that when you have someone who is going into managerial role, a managerial role is less technical and more administrative and behavioral. You need to teach the person how to be a good leader. And those are the things that you need to pay attention to. So it says, and committed behaviors which people contribute. So it's a contribution to an authoritatively coordinated human enterprise as part of an employment exchange. Pay attention to the word employment exchange. It's an exchange. You give your time to the organization in exchange for money, which comes in form of salary or any other bonus, to carry out work tasks in a way which enables the enterprise to continue into the future. Here you begin to talk about sustainability. Is everywhere I work, the first document I ask for is, can I see your strategic plan? And I've always been wowed to get to an organization that does business in the billions and for them never to have strategic plans. And where they claim to have strategic plans, they are not realistic. And you just begin to see, how does this connect to what the guy that works under me does on a daily basis? Whatever you are doing should connect to what every member of the organization is doing. So these are few definitions. What is your own definition of HR management? I'm going to unmute some people and let you see. Thank you very much. There's this person that has reflected his student number as his display name here, and it makes it easier for you to capture his attendance. Let me ask, who should I ask? Tosan. Okay, at least Tosan has worked with me before. So if I know you, I can always, okay. Tosan and Shegun Odewande, what is your own understanding of HRM? Don't give us textbook definition. Give us the definition that has worked for you and that has really helped you a great deal. Shegun and Tosan. Shegun Odewande. Can you hear me, Shegun? Can you all still hear me? So that it won't be that I'm the one that is just talking to myself. If you can still hear me, let me see in the group chat. Oh, okay, thank you. You can hear me. Shegun Odewande, can you hear me? Are you there? Who wants to say something? Aromolaron, you want to say something? Anybody can speak. What is your own understanding, their own definition of management? Please, let's hear you. This is not a one-way thing, no. This is not a one-way talk at all. I want to hear you people speak to me as well, so that I know we are on the same page in what we are doing. Okay, if you don't want to say anything, you can as well drop it in the chat. So let's go ahead. Please drop it in the chat if you don't want to say anything. Fash Blessing, you want to say something? Tosan, I want to have at least one person say something before I move to the next slide. What is your own definition of human resource management? Okay. Abby says HR is human resources, use of human to achieve work. Thank you, ma'am.
I don't know if
That's
you
a very simple. Yes, okay, go ahead now. I can hear you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can I speak on, please?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the privilege to talk. Based on the little thing that you have explained as regards the HR, the HRM and the likes, I see them as personnel who help in the incorporation of great values, because for any organization to be sustained and for the relevancy of any organization to be preserved, we need to come to the point of bringing people who have some certain values that will help in the promotion of the long-term interest of an organization. So based on my own understanding, the HRM, they are personnel that help in the incorporation of right values that is at work in people into a particular organization, into a particular levels of organization based on their own understanding, because since we said it has to be strategic, it has to be coherent. So they help in incorporation of people with right values in an organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Aromolaron, very much. You are focusing on HRM as a position, human resource managers. We're looking at HRM as human resource management, but that's a very good one, and you literally have brought it to life in the practical dimension of it. Tosan, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Okay, sir. I just want to share my little thoughts on what I believe HR management is about. And now I'm coming from the person perspective of human resource. I believe that human resource managers are people that act as middlemen between let me not say people that are employees, that they are employed to act as the middle person between management and other employees, such that they communicate what the people want, what staffers want to management, and also communicate the demands of management from employees to them also. And they are also the ones that help to drive the culture. They try to inculcate the culture of the organization to staffers. Basically, they carry the mind of the management to staff and also help management to know what staff want of them. They are the middlemen. And one thing I found out is that most persons that are in the human resource space, sometimes we tend to forget that we are also employees. So we are also fellow employees with other people just that we act as middlemen between management and the staff. My little point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tosan. And there's something I'm seeing, and I need to draw your attention to it so that we can all pay attention to it. And that is HRM. Human resource managers are simply custodian of the entire HR function in an organization. But we have human resource managers who sincerely do not even know the core of HR, but they have the title. But we're not looking at the title. We're looking at human resource management as a function. One thing you need to know is that human resource management, the word management lets you know that it's a management function. So it must sit at the top. HR must have representative or representation at the top when the top executives are talking. It is only then that you can really make a case for the people. Number two, you are an employee as an HR professional who is not allowed to feel like I'm an employee when making decisions. You are meant to take a neutral position and look at the issues, then come up. The reason I said that is there are times that as an HR professional, you make a recommendation for some benefit for some categories of staff and you will get 0 naira from it. But if you don't separate yourself from it, you would always want to put yourself into it. And that is why most management don't respect some HR people, because they say you are only doing it because of yourself. But when you are able to separate yourself, as me, Kayode, from my function as an HR manager, I realize that it is the process I am meant to manage. So it becomes very clear and objective. One thing you need to learn as an HR professional is, number one, you must learn how to manage your emotions and control yourself. Because the people you are fighting for can be seeking your downfall, can be seeking to destroy you. I once worked in a place where some people were fasting for me to die. And these were the people behind the scene I was fighting the management for. But as far as they were concerned, I was their problem. When I heard, I just laughed. I didn't take it personal. I just knew that they did not know what's up. But after I left the place, they began to we need you back. We need you back. So as an HR person, you should be able to separate, because sincerely, you have times when you will cry. When the management will talk down on you and the staff will talk down on you and just be like, why am I even doing what I am doing? But there's a goal, and that goal must always be kept ahead of you. The goal is to build an organization that is sustainable, with processes that run effectively without any form of bias. The only thing that makes you treat people equally is when you have your policies clearly spelled out. But I've worked in places and I've consulted in places where they don't have policies and they tell you they want policies. And the moment you say, let's do policies for you, you begin to hear things like, no, we're fine the way we're doing it. So a lot of organizations are employing HR managers for the sake of saying we have an HR manager. Not that they want a change, but you must begin to also learn how to communicate. See, after this class, one chapter I need you to read inside, one section I need you to read inside that book is the section that speaks to HR skills. You need to know the skills that are required. At some point, you must be a politician. You need to learn those skills and know how to master them. It is only through learning them and mastering them that you can really achieve whatever your goal is. Okay, so philosophy. Okay, this one will require a lot of talks. I have to bring them out in bits so that you can see it. Now, it says doubts were expressed by Noon, 1992, as to whether HRM was a map, a model, or a theory. And people still have that problem till today. Is HRM just the flow chart? Is it just a model or just a theory? And we see that same problem amongst HR professionals. If I do a survey now, if I do a quick survey on the platform, Franklin, can you please create a survey on the platform? Is HR management a map, a model, a theory? HR management is what? First option, a map. Second option, a model. Third option, a theory. Let's see what we all want to do. There's no wrong answer here. Every answer is right. Perspective is what determines what is seen. But while Frank is doing that, let's proceed. He says, but it is evident that the original concept could be interpreted as a philosophy for managing people. Please pay attention. We've all gone to school. Somehow, at some point, we did what you call what do we call philosophy? In different schools, the philosophy course had different titles, right? And they began to teach you what philosophy really is. So this man here is saying to you that it is evident that the original concept could be interpreted as a philosophy for managing people. So it's a philosophy for people management. It's not a rigid thing, right? It's a collection of concepts that are meant to be sifted through and selected from. That's why I said earlier, it's all about best fit, not just global best practice. Because as HR professional, I hear a lot of us saying, oh, global best practice, global best practice. It's not about global best practice. It is about the best fit solution for your organization. It's a philosophy of managing people in that it contained a number of general principles and beliefs as to how that should be done. One of them is there's this theory of organizational commitment. It simply means that the strength of an individual's identification with and involvement in a particular organization. So it's more about around your commitment to your organization. So this one focuses on what are the things that makes people committed. What are the things, and now if I should ask you in your offices, the things you do, and you begin to ask yourself, now why do you do them? You begin to do things that will achieve your staff commitment. Now we talk about employee engagement. Another way of talking about commitment or loyalty is engagement. We say engaged employees are loyal and they are committed. So this is the theory that focuses on that. To say you need to begin to consider things that make people feel committed to the organization. A couple of us on this call, we're not committed to our organizations. It's just because that's the only option we have at the moment. The next moment an option comes, pam, we run. The next one is motivation theory. This explains the factors that affect goal-directed behavior and therefore influences the approaches in HR management to enhance engagement. In brackets, the situation in which people are committed to their work and the organization and are motivated to achieve high levels of performance. You see that this is a corroboration of the theory of organizational commitment. But here, like I said before, the author's experiment, it's all about what are those things that makes Kayode to want to go the extra mile to ensure that the work is done today. What is the motivation theory? And you realize that these are things we use in our day-to-day activities at work, but we might not have been very aware of them. That's why I said, when you read the book, it gives you a solid theoretical background. Now let's begin to bring them into practice. The theory of organizational commitment and motivation theory. When we develop our salary, our reward structure, our compensation and benefits, this is where they come in very strong. We consider which salary is our salary competitive in the market. Is that not the question we ask ourselves? Oh, okay, what should we give apart from the salary, apart from the financial value that can keep our people motivated and they want to stay with us? Then we begin to think about employee retention rates. Now, these are the things that speaks to those things. Then there's resource-based theory. Says that competitive advantage is achieved if a firm's resources are valuable, rare, and costly to imitate. This is where you have unique talents. You have staff in your organization that have skill sets that are very rare in the industry. Why do people keep poaching experienced and skilled people? It is to have that competitive advantage over their competition. Then there's another one, the theory, organization theory. So this describes how people within the organizations act individually or in groups, and how organizations function in terms of structure, processes, and culture. Earlier on, I did talk about, I mentioned the word artifacts. I mentioned the word artifacts. And I mentioned the word artifacts. And what are artifacts? You see, when you talk about culture, culture has been defined simply as a way of living of a group of people. Now, for as long as it is documented, can be easily retrieved, we refer to them as culture. But there's a part of culture that is never documented. In your company, have you ever heard people say, now so we do, this is how we have always done it? And you say, can you show me a policy supporting this? You say, no, there's no policy, but that's how we have been doing it. Those are artifacts. Now so we do. They are not so backed up by any policy, but they have been taken to be the acceptable norm in the organization. If I ask you, you will be able to tell me that you have such in your organizations as well. When people say, that's how we have always done it. But when people tell me that's how we have always done it, me as an HR person given to process, I say, can I see where it is documented? And the moment they tell me it's not documented, we don't have it, I'll tell them straight, it can't hold. Because I know that if I take a decision on that thing and it goes to court, it goes to National Industrial Court, I'm in trouble. Because when it gets to National Industrial Court, for those of us who have been opportune to go there, they begin to interrogate you and they ask you, this decision you took, Show us your document, your policy, or whatever document that supports it. If you're not able to do it, they wash you, they insult you. So I always say, no, if it is not documented, forget it. But there are practices in our organizations that are not documented. That's where they come from. Contingency theory states that HRM practices are dependent on the organization's environment and circumstances. Here, you begin to talk about stakeholders, both external stakeholders and internal stakeholders, and the influence of those stakeholders on the business. And so you begin to prepare and you begin to plan for them. If your office is on Lagos Island, in the very heart of Lagos Island, whether you like it or not, there are some, whether you want to call it tip, whether you want to call it public relations, whatever you call it, for those area boys, especially when you deal in sensitive things. Because if you don't, they mess up the whole thing for you. Then institutional theory. Organizations conform to internal and external environmental pressures in order to gain legitimacy and acceptance. Here, you begin to see organizations do a lot of corporate social responsibility. And by the way, let me say this, corporate social responsibility does not have to be outside. Work-life balance initiatives now fall under corporate social responsibility because they are focused on, CSR can be both internally focused or externally focused. But the one that people are used to is the one that is externally focused. Oh, we went to a place and we gave them free health care. Oh, we renovated or repaired road in a particular place. But this is where all those things come. In order to gain acceptance and legitimacy in your environment. Then we have human capital theory. This is concerned with how people in an organization contribute their knowledge, skills, and abilities. You know KSA, right? When you are developing your competency framework, KSA comes in handy. Knowledge, skills, and abilities to enhancing organizational capability and significance of that contribution. So this is simply saying how much value can we derive from our people. So it begins to relate to people as capital. So now when they talk about human capital, it begins to treat people like the way they treat money. That's what this theory really focuses on, placing that much value on people. And its major thing, KSA. KSA is what we refer to as competencies. Please note that every time you talk about competencies, we're talking about people's knowledge level, people's skills level, and people's abilities to do things that are required. Then resource dependence theory. This states that groups and organizations gain power over each other by controlling valued resources. For some, they control talents. How many of us know Friesland Campina? You will never see Friesland Campina's advert outside. And you would hardly see anybody leave Friesland Campina. Friesland Campina are the owners of Peak Milk and the parent body of WAMCO, West African Milk Production Company, whatever. You will never see their advert outside. All my friends that had ever worked there left the country. The ones that are still there, that are still in the country, they never left there for anything. Why? Because the working condition, the remuneration is so interesting that nobody wants to leave. Some organizations have that edge over others within their. For some, they have they control financial. So it's about resource control here. That's what that is talking about. The AMO theory was developed by Harvard. And so you see a Harvard model at some point. It says the formula states that performance is a function of ability plus motivation plus opportunity to participate. AMO, ability plus motivation plus opportunity. For some of us, we have employees in our organizations who have the ability to do some things, but they are not motivated to do them. Then for some, we have people who have the ability, they are internally motivated, they want to do it, but they are not given the opportunity. But there must be the ability, there must be the motivation, there must be the opportunity. Once those three combines, it gives you, now that's another philosophy of HRM. Then another one is social exchange theory. It says that employees will reciprocate their contribution to the organization if they perceive that the organization has treated them well. This applies to all of us. Now, these things I'm reading now, sincerely, begin to look at your environment. look at you as an employee, look at you as an HR professional, look at you as a manager. Are these not things that plays out on a regular basis, but we are not paying attention to the fact that there are actually theoretical frameworks around them of philosophical ideas? So then we have the transaction cost theory. Transaction cost economics assumes that business develop organizational structures and systems that economize the costs of the transactions, interrelated exchange activities that take place during the course of the operations. This actually focuses more on process enhancement. It simply says that organizations will consider structures that will help them to save money, that will help them to reduce operations. That's where today we begin to talk about Kaizen. We talk about lean management. You talk about Six Sigma. Now, those things are process enhancement interventions so that you can save costs and still enhance the quality of your output. Now, those one focus more on economics, the part of it. Then agency theory says that the role of managers of a business is to act on behalf of the owners of the business as the agents, and that's all. And that is what most of our people do. They employ someone as a manager, and the manager sees that the people under him are being maltreated, and the guy says, look, I'm only loyal to the organ that gave me the job. I'm just an agent. So you realize that you see all these things at play in various places as we go to work and all those things. And these are things that if you have an understanding of them, when you want to make decisions at work, unconsciously, their understanding begins to pop up, and you're able to make certain decisions, and you're able to make informed and very good decisions that anywhere, wherever they are coming from, will not be able to fault you. Let me say this. I once worked in a place where my CEO just felt that, he needed to get a consultant from outside the country to support us. I've made my recommendations, but he still had his doubts about my recommendations. So he got me a coach, a Chinese lady who was based in the US. She graduated from Stanford University and all that. So we had a series of meetings. The first meeting we had, the lady gave me all her questions and all that. And the next day, I sent responses to all her questions. By the time we're having our second virtual meeting with my CEO, of course, myself and the lady had exchanged on mails. By the time we're meeting the second time virtually, she said to my CEO straight, she said, look, the guy you have knows what he's doing very well. You don't need me. He has you covered with everything. But my boss did not believe it. The reason is simple. We're Nigerians. We believe that the white people are better. So, but one thing that works for me is that my understanding of these things comes to play most times when I'm considering solutions. You may tell me a problem and I tell you that that solution you are proposing is not the solution. I may not have a perfect solution at that time, but my residual knowledge at that time tells me that no, that can't be it. And that's one thing you need to do as an HR professional. You need to be grounded in the theoretical part of HR so that when you want to make decisions, things will get very, very good. What are the goals of HR management? Now, this is the definition of goal from betterhelp.com. It says goals are your desired results that you or your team are committed to achieving within a specific time frame. It involves setting long-term and short-term objectives. Pay attention. You know, we say goals and objectives. Now it's trying to help you clear it because we have that issue over time. It says it involves setting long-term and short-term objectives that help you stay focused on your goals, track your progress, and attain the desired result. So the question is, what is the difference between goals and objectives? Who wants to help us? I want to hear someone. What is the difference between goals and objectives? Goals and objectives, difference. Mr. Shegun Ogunbiyi, would you say something? Goals and objectives.
Okay, sir.
Oh, okay. Someone wanted to talk.
Okay, sir.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, to me, I think a goal is what we set to achieve, while objectives are how we set to achieve it, the process by which we achieve what we set to achieve.
Thank you, sir. Any other
Okay.
person? Gabriel or for whiskey?
Okay. Goals are, the way I see it, goals are things you want to achieve. It's a set thing you want to achieve. But the objectives are the things you put in place to achieve the goal at the end. So goals could be in short term, could be in long term, but there must be some little objectives that you put in place that will help you achieve the later end of it. That's what my understanding of goals and objectives is.
All right, thank you very much. So that we very fast, right? Objectives are milestones. Goals are your desired end. Goals most times don't have metrics attached to them. Objectives must have metrics attached to them. I don't know, for those of us who have managed performance management and you have used balanced scorecard, or even if it is objectives and key result, OKR, or behaviorally anchored rating scale, BAS, whichever one you are using, you realize that what you set for balanced scorecard, what you set for your 4 perspectives are the goals. We set goals. We want to, how do I put it now? Exceptional staff, for example. Then you now go down to say, what do you mean by exceptional staff? How will you measure when you achieve that? You now say, okay, our staff must perform, an average staff must not perform below 75% at every appraisal. Turnaround time for every assigned task should be 24 hours. You put all those things. See, the moment you begin to tick those smaller ones, what they begin to do is they begin to add up. They begin to add up until you are able to achieve your goal. Your goal is the big picture. Your objectives are your milestones towards the big picture. It's just like you are going to the 3rd floor of a building that doesn't have a lift. Even if it does have a lift, the lift will start from the ground floor, get to the 1st floor, 2nd floor before it gets to the 3rd floor. So are your objectives. Your objectives are like your steps along your staircase. They are your steps, one after the other, that leads you till you get to where you are going to. Your goal is to get upstairs. But the objectives is you must take one step at a time to get there. After all, we say we take one step at a time. Thank you for that input. So it says, according to so the goal of HR is very simple. HR works to help with the utilization of the human resources within an organization. And by human resources, we're talking about their competencies. And by their competencies, we mean their knowledge, their skills, and their abilities. At some point, may not be part of this program. Maybe when we begin to take some things and do very practical sessions, very practical, when we come together to develop like a competency framework, I begin to walk you through how to practicalize most of these things. Because when you see a competency framework, you need to understand that there are principles behind the competency framework. You don't just pull them just anyhow. Then it brings us to the conceptual framework of HR. Now, HRM is conceived in the 1980s, as a conceptual framework consisting of a philosophy underpinned by a number of theories drawn from the behavioral sciences and from the fields of strategic management, human capital, and industrial relations. Now, this is the conceptual framework of HR. HR draws from behavioral sciences, strategic management, human capital, and industrial relations. But let's now talk about the core principles. I shared a document with you. One of the documents I shared is Approaches to Industrial Relations. I guess, yes, I did. It's a PDF. Now, he speaks more to this industrial approaches to industrial relations because If you can understand them, then you see how your workplace is structured. It's all about power play. The workplace is about power play. And that's what we need to know. Now, I said the behavioral science theory combines elements of psychology, sociology, and anthropology to provide a scientific basis for understanding employee behavior. If you have ever spoken to me one-on-one, I tell you HR is a combination of 3 distinct disciplines: psychology, sociology, industrial relations. Please pay attention. HR is a combination of 3 distinct disciplines. Majorly, psychology. You begin to talk about motivation theories. You begin to think about how to encourage people. Sociology. You begin to think about culture, norms, values. Don't we talk about corporate culture? Don't we talk about our core values? Don't we talk about our corporate philosophy? This is how we do our things here. Then industrial relations, you begin to think about employee relations, you begin to think about conflict resolution. You want to know conflict resolution very well. Go to industrial relations. When you begin to read about collective bargaining, institutionalization of conflicts, you begin to realize, and when you begin to hear about things like Trade Union Act, Trade Union Amendment Act, those are laws around conflict management in the workplace. And when you understand those things, it helps you to be able to develop very good policies based on your understanding of the law. So behavioral science combines psychology, sociology, and anthropology to provide a scientific basis for understanding employee behavior. Please pay attention to that. Employee behavior. And we need to be able to understand their behavior, because in performance management, one of the things we also assess are the behavioral indicators in our performance. So as we take these classes, we make reference to other parts of HR practice because they come in very handy at this point. Then the second one is the 3 popular approaches to industrial relations are the unitary approach, pluralistic approach, and Marxist approach. This is the summary of them. The unitary approach is based on the strong argument that there is only one source of authority, that is the management, which owns and controls the dynamics of decision-making in issues relating to negotiation, and bargaining. So it says the management determines what happens. You don't have a say. It's just like my father at home. My father has spoken. I have no idea. I can't say no to him. It's his money he's spending. That's the unitary perspective. So you see a lot of organizations structured this way. Once the management says the thing, they don't expect the employees to challenge them. They don't expect the employees to have a different opinion. Or some managers, when they say do it this way, and the subordinates know that there are better ways of doing it, they say, no, do it the way I did it. How dare you challenge my authority? Some of us on this call must have said that before too. No, this perspective, this approach is more like a boss-servant relationship. I have spoken, you keep quiet, just do what I asked you to do, even if it's not the best thing. That's the underlying principle of the unitary approach. You can read more details about it. That's why I actually brought it to you to read. Then we have the pluralistic approach, which totally departs from the unitary approach and assume that the organization is composed of individuals who form distinct groups with their own set of aims, objectives, leadership styles, and value propositions. Now, I said this is the strength of trade unions' existence. In fact, this is the beginning of trade unionism. And this draws heavily from some international labor organizations' conventions that guides collective bargaining, social dialogue, decent work, principles of all those things. Now, this one simply means that, okay, we recognize that there are different people with different opinions, but we need to be able to design systems that helps to manage them. If you don't work in a unionized environment, good for you. But you need to go and learn that skill, because you might find yourself in the manufacturing sector or any sector that is unionized. When it comes to engage unions, it is not like 5 and 6. You need to be able to understand a lot of dynamics. But the pluralistic approach believes that, yes, we know there are divergent opinions, interests, and all that. But how can we come together to mitigate the tension? Now, it is always said that conflict is inevitable. What we try to do is to minimize the impact of conflict or the occurrence of conflict in our organizations. You can't do without conflict. It's just like in our homes. Daddy and mommy have misunderstandings. Brothers and sisters have misunderstandings. Conflict is a part of human existence, but we need to be able to minimize it to the lowest possible level. Then the Marxist approach, also known as the radical perspective, is based on the proposition that economic activities of production, manufacturing, and distribution are majorly governed by the objective of profit. Marxists, like the pluralists, regard conflict between employers and employees as inevitable. But don't forget that this one pays attention. The focus here is on profit. The focus here is on profit. In the pluralistic approach, the focus is more on welfare. Now, in an industrial relations system, I just want to let you know there are three major players or actors. You have the employees and their unions, you have the employers and their associations, and you have the government. The government is supposed to be the regulator. It's supposed to be the regulatory power. Some of the things that you also need to be very familiar with to really succeed in this HR journey. We're almost done so that we can ask questions. Reservations about HR. The main reservations are set out below have been set have been that HRM promises more than it delivers. Have you seen people come to you to say, HR? This was not what you told me during the interview. So those are power in the HRM system remains very firmly in the hands of the employer. Now, this is the reality for us in Nigeria, and it's also the reality in advanced economies. So now, HRM remains an uncertain and imprecise notion. It was known in 1992 that says this, that the perception about HR from one organization to another differs. So it makes a lot of people to begin to think like, this your HR service is a fad. Now, the HRM rhetoric presents it as an all or nothing process, which is ideal for any organization, despite the evidence that different business environments require different approaches. Please pay attention to the statement here. There's the evidence that different business environments require different approaches. When you find yourself in different companies, the fact that this system worked in company A does not mean it will work in company B. Those are some of the challenges, because what most managers or what most management people do is that they go online, they download policies, and they come to you. I don't know if they've done it to you. They come to you and they say, oh, this policy, go and implement it. And they don't care how it is. And me, I've had to say, look, Oga, this policy can't work here. So how can they not accept because of this, and this? In fact, I once worked in 2 of the leading private hospitals in Nigeria. When I left one, the structure we did there that seemed good and perfect for that environment, when I got to the next one, when I joined them, I realized that it will fail woefully. So I had to design something totally different for that one. And this was within a space of 3 months. So you can imagine if I just took one, I just want to implement it, it can't work. So this is drawing your attention to those differences that we need to pay attention to as HR professionals. HR is simplistic. So the HRM message to top management tends to be beginningly simple. Don't bother too much about the content or techniques of personnel management. It says, just manage the context. Get out from behind your desk, bypass the hierarchy, and go and talk to people. That way, you will unlock the enormous potential for improved performance. Is this not what your management always expects from you? Management expects my HR to perform magic. And they don't know that it's a process. It can't just happen just like that. And these are some of the things that now, if Armstrong could document this, it simply means that Armstrong wants you and I to pay attention to them as we face our everyday task. The unitarist approach to industrial relations implicit in HRM, they believe that the management and employees share the same concern, and it is therefore in both their interest to work together, is questionable. Because to be candid, management and employees will never share the same interest. Employees, what do employees want? Employees want to be well paid. They want an engaging and encouraging work environment, and they want work-life balance. What does the management want? Management just wants to get the work done and make more money. So the management would rather pay you less and make more profit. Meanwhile, the staff is saying, you know what, we will make more, but let's agree to profit sharing. And management says, no. I agreed I'll be paying you 200,000 every month. Then maybe when you do your performance appraisal and I see that you are good, then based on the policy, I can dash you maybe 10% of your monthly basic or monthly gross. That is it. Don't go near profit sharing. So the interests are never really the same. But what we just try to do is we manage the tension to the barest minimum. Is it really possible to claim full mutuality when at the end of the day, the employer can decide unilaterally to close the company or sell it to someone else? Really, this is where the power of the employer is. And this is where the reservation of some people come to say, you know what, you can say it, but the employees don't have the kind of power that the management or the employer has. But we know that HR management is all about balancing the power in the employment relationship. Please pay attention to that. All we exist to do as HR professionals is to balance the power. We're not saying that we will equalize power. No, we just want to try to balance it in such a way that the management does not become Idi Amin, but that at least the employees are able to get some things that they deserve by getting someone that can speak for you in the placing of the HR professional. Models of HR. This is important for you to understand, because once you understand it, it will help you. You will see them. You won't always quote them, but you see them play out. This is for the last slide. Now, we have the matching model of HRM. This indicated that HR systems and organizational structure should be managed in a way that is congruent with organizational strategy, that is in alignment. Here, we talk about strategic alignment, and that is the beginning of the concept of strategic management. I need you to pay attention. Strategic management is simply about every component function of the organization having a point of intersection or infusion into what the management has set at the beginning, at the top. It is strategic because it is top level, but it touches the base. It's not just strategic because it is at the top. It's strategic because it affects the organization down to the base. So here, it's all about strategic alignment. That's one thing I need you to take away from here. The matching concept talks about strategic alignment. That's why when you begin to do your HR strategy, or when you begin to develop your HR plans, it's supposed to be developed in line with the strategic objectives of the organization. From your understanding of the strategic objectives of the organization, you develop your HR strategy. But what I have seen holds in organizations, they say, go and give me your HR strategy. When there's no strategic objectives, you will just do something that is connecting to nothing. So when HR is going in 40 degrees east, that finance is going 40 degrees west, then management is going 90 degrees upwards. Now everybody is going different directions. But when there's that strategic alignment, everybody has connected to a document, and that document becomes the roadmap that everybody looks up to. And then the second model is we have the Harvard model of HRM. This proposed that HRM involves all management decisions and actions that affect the nature of the relationship between the organization and employees. That's its human resources. They also stressed that it was necessary to adopt a longer-term perspective in managing people and consideration of people as a potential asset rather than merely a variable cost. This introduced the staff, that is policies and control, and line, that is operational alignment and adherence functions of HR. There are two core functions of HR that you need to know today. Earlier on, I did talk about the hiring manager and the recruitment manager. The hiring manager is a line function because that's the line manager. The recruitment manager is a staff function, and we need to know that. So what the Harvard model brought to the fore is the fact that there's the line function of HR and there's the staffing function of HR. Line function of HR, the first level of HR management in any organization. The first HR manager in any organization is the manager in charge, is the line manager in charge of a team. So there are some disciplinary issues that shouldn't go beyond him or her. They're able to resolve those things there because they are not real deviance or defiance of company policies. They are just tensions between people in the department, and being the father or the mother of the team is able to resolve it. Now, when the person steals government company properties, the line manager cannot handle it. It becomes a staffing function. It becomes a thing that must be pushed to the HR. But what I see is that when two people cough in the department, the manager will push them to HR. And I've had to say to people that, see, this one, you can resolve it within your department. Things you are only expected to escalate to HR. And when you resolve issues in your department, make sure you document them so that when the time comes and you need to show them as evidence for recommending someone for termination or for punishment, you have things to back it up. And that is very important that we need to know that. And we as professionals also need to understand this line function of HR and the staffing function of HR. Then contextual model of HRM. The contextual model of HRM emphasizes the importance of environmental factors by including variables such as the influence of social, institutional, and political forces that have been underestimated in other models. Here, focus is placed on external stakeholders and their impact on HR practices. For example, recently there was the removal of subsidy in Nigeria. And with the removal of subsidy, what happens to staff, to members of staff? Their cost of living was increased by about 300%. So the salary of 300,000 you were paying someone before is supposed to have been adjusted to about 600 to 700,000 naira if you want that person to be able to survive. But how many organizations are able to respond to it? Because they were not able to put it to practical. So when at my last place, I sat my management people down and I said, look, this is the reality. For the person that was spending 16,000 naira to the office on a monthly basis before, the person now spends about 32,000 naira to the office on transportation alone. The person has not eaten and all those things. And instantly we came up with here what we call, I introduced cost of living adjustment. I said, look, yes, you don't want to increase salary, no problem. But give me cost of living adjustment. At least it will help to mitigate the pressure. And it was considered. I know we did that also in St. Nicholas Hospital during the COVID era, when things were tough and all that, and the management was not given to reviewing salaries. Myself and my team members then, Gabriel, DG, Yetunde, and all of them, we started and we began to think about it, and we introduced what we called COLA. And bam, it just changed the mood and the atmosphere of the workplace. People felt excited and they are getting it. Now, these are things that are contextual in that it wasn't the company that removed subsidy. But the removal of subsidy was never envisaged by anybody at the beginning of the year. But it's having negative impact on staff experience. And as a result of that, we need to think about how to mitigate that pressure. So as an HR professional, you must always be willing and ready to think on your feet. Then we have the 5P model of HRM. This describes how HRM operates under 5 headings of HR philosophy, HR policies, HR programs, HR practices, and HR processes. I know most of us must have seen some things around this before now, but it's a model. And this is about one of the most straightforward models. What is HR philosophy? What are the guiding philosophy? What is that philosophical statement you have couched for your HR team? What kind of people do you see working in your organizations? How long do you see them working in your organization? This philosophy begins to influence your promotion, career progression in the organization, and all those things. Then your philosophies, your policies. Your philosophy begins to inform the kind of policies you have and how those policies are developed. Then your policies begins to influence the kind of programs or interventions you come up with as an organization from the HR department. Then HR practices. What are the practices? How are the things done in your organization? How are your HR practices administered? How are they carried out? And of course, HR processes. What are the processes you are putting in place? All those things fall under the 5P model of HRM. And we have the hard and soft model of HRM. These distinguish between the hard and soft versions of HRM. The hard one emphasizes the quantitative, calculative, and business strategic aspects of managing human resources in as rational a way as for any other economic factor, while the soft version traces its roots to human relations code. It emphasizes communication, motivation, and leadership. However, it has been established that hard and soft HRM are complementary rather than mutually exclusive. Here, you know, one thing that has come to the fore in recent times is what you call HR analytics. It is quantitative. You can calculate it. It is figure. That is hard part of HR. But you see the behavioral part of your performance management when you are doing your performance appraisal. Interpersonal skills, communication, respect for people, initiative, whatever you want to call it, those fall under soft. Interestingly, the soft is the strength of HR. The soft side of HR is the strength of HR. And we need to pay attention to it. Because when we have the right, it was Peter Keller also that says that we hire for attitude and we train for skills. It used to be the other way around. We used to hire for skills and train for attitudes. But it has been discovered that skills can be learned. Attitude hardly changes. So when you are conducting interview for someone to work in HR and you see someone that talks down on people, you see someone that doesn't relate well with people, you see someone that likes to dominate people, that's not the kind of person you want to have in HR. Because HR is the messenger of all. And because HR is the messenger of all, HR must be personable. When people are under tension, when they see the HR person, they should be excited. When people are having problems at home, they should see the HR person as a coach, as a mentor, as a guide, as a counselor. During the course of my career, I've had to resolve family issues for staff with their spouses. It's not part of my job, but because they could see that they had that trust. So when they shared it, one of it happened, it was supposed to lead to that lady's termination. But I got in, called the husband, we sat down, resolved the issue, and they are fine today. So that is who HR is. And that is why the soft side of HR is very critical if we must succeed HR professionals. This is the last part of today's session. Can we then say that goal is a cash cow and objectives is cash dogs? Sammy, now you sabi. All right, HRM today. What is the reality today? One thing you need to know is that HR has come to stay. Nobody can take it away. Nobody can say HR is not HR. As a matter of fact, a lot of professions are now delving into HR. And the reason is simple, is because I see, go and check when they tell you the top 20 skills that will thrive beyond a certain time. HR skills will always be there, because when they say people management skills, that is HR. So I need you to know that come what may, HR has come to stay. And HR is relevant anywhere. Someone asked me a question. You have done HR in agric business. You have done HR in healthcare. You are now doing HR in real estate. How are you able to cope? I say HR is HR anywhere. All you need to do is to understand the context in which that industry operates. HR is HR. So know one thing for sure, you have chosen the right path, and it's a path with limitless opportunities. And you can never be out of job as an HR person except you are not good. So HR is here to stay, number one. The request for HR to be strategic and business-like and to add value, that is to generate or create extra value, benefit to the business by the expenditure of effort, time, and money. Now, this is a concern by most management today, although a lot of them say it by mouth, they're also not committed to it. But all they keep asking is, how will HR, at what point will HR stop being a cost center and really become a business partner? Because I know most of us have seen HR as a business partner. But the truth is, we use it, they even use it as title, job titles, but HR is predominantly a cost center as it is today. But the concern really from now is, how can my HR team be a business partner and not just a cost center? It's very simple. You should be able to contribute to strategy development. You should be able to contribute to operations. I could remember during COVID, when there was going to be meltdown and lockdown, before anybody thought about it in the hospital, myself and my team, we sat down, we came up with a plan. By the time the management is ready to begin to say, oh, we need to think about lockdown, we already had a plan for it. Beyond that plan, we had a contingency plan to say, okay, when we come back, if anything happens, we never had to activate that, but we had it in plan. So that made them to, of course, respect the HR team, because those are the things you do, and they realize that, wow, okay, HR is not just a cost center, they're adding value. Trainings, you can create a pool of resource persons internally and deliver trainings that will have cost. One thing I do is that in my reports, I try to monetize our internal trainings and determine a value for it. And say this training, if we have 10 people outside, we'll have spent 5 million naira. So we deliver 5 million naira worth of value to the organization. So businesses are more concerned about how HR can deliver more value beyond just hiring and firing. Then in the area of training, learning, and development, HR can do much more in that area. In the area of succession planning, we can do much more. You see, succession planning, performance management, and competency development, and learning and development, all those things work together. When you conduct performance appraisal, you find gaps. You develop training or learning and development plan or performance improvement plan to bridge identified gaps. So what you are doing is you are helping the people to get better by providing those solutions. So you won't need to really spend so much outside and all that. Then you can create a talent pool. As people apply, you keep them somewhere, you keep engaging them. You don't need to engage the services of, what do you call it now? Consultants, recruitment agencies. You are saving money and you're able to reduce them to naira and kobo, and they can begin to see value. You reduce tension in the workplace. You are creating values, and those are those values that should be captured. So there have been plenty of new interest, concept, and development, including human capital management, engagement, talent management, competency-based HRM, you must have heard about it. EHRM, you must have heard about it. High performance work systems and performance and reward management. But these have not been introduced under the banner of HRM concept as originally defined. Now, this is a centralized thing as at the time that book was published. But operationally, for those who have worked with me, you realize that we have embedded a lot of these things into some of the things we do, because I always like to run a dynamic team. I don't like to run a team that depends on me all the time. I like to run teams that I can always say, guys, how far? What are we doing? And we can always go, because by allowing them to contribute, you also learn in the process. HRM has largely become something that organizations do rather than an aspiration or a philosophy. And the term is generally in use as a way of describing the process of managing people. Everybody has come to agree that HRM is synonymous to people management. And so we need to know that is what it is today. A convincing summary of what HR means today, which focuses on what HRM is rather than on its philosophy, was provided by Peter Boxer, John Pochel, and Patrick Rath 2007, representing the new generation of commentators. What does this say? It says HRM is the management of work and people towards desired ends. It's also an inevitable consequence of starting and growing an organization. While there are a myriad of variations in the ideology, styles, and managerial resources engaged, HRM happens in some form or the other. Whether we like it or not, HRM happens. Human resource management happens. Then, this is just an addition. I just said, why HR? You were all here because of HR. Why HR? For organizations, it's all about systems and processes. What are those systems and processes? Performance appraisal, employee selection, human resource planning, which we're still going to talk about. Employee relations, we're still going to talk about it. Performance management, we're still going to talk about it. Training, that is learning and development, we're still going to talk about it. Hiring, which links with selection, where we're still going to talk about it. Recruitment, when it comes to selection, recruitment, hiring, they are together, they are interwoven. Then administration, of course, that comes under comp and ben. And at some point, I'm trusting that we'll have a whole session on compensation and benefits where we're able to actually design something so that everybody can gain practical knowledge on how to do it. Of course, onboarding and offboarding. Onboarding is when you are bringing people in. Offboarding is when people are leaving the organization. And the reason we do offboarding is to learn why is this person leaving us, so that we can glean some ideas and begin to learn how to enhance our systems and processes. This is for the organization. Then for you, why HR for you? These are your own personal connections. It's number one, for connection. Working in HR helps form friendships through constant interaction with others in HR, whether they are thought leaders or colleagues. This has helped me, and I can tell you, HR helps you to stay connected because you are the one that will recruit the management staff, and you are the one that will recruit the cleaners. And of course, the cleaners have their values, the management staff have their values, so you have that connection. Everywhere at work, when you check my phone, I will have at least 70% of the phone contacts of people in the organizations where I've worked. And how does that happen? They say, oh, sir, we're having this challenge. Who is talking? You tell me who is talking, I save it. I know the next time if I have anything to do in that place, I have your number, I can always call you. So we form connection. Innovation. HR presents an opportunity to inject new creativity to solve new challenges. Trust me, no two problems can be solved the same way in HR. So it helps you to be able to innovate, helping others. Of course, in HR, your job really is to help people. Impact, when you help people, you impact their lives positively. For some, you just help their careers to get better. For others, you just help their relationship at home to get better. In any way, you are impacting them, and that impact is a lifelong impact. Learning in HR is a continuous learning and discovering through self-understanding, investigating a new facet in HR and new projects. And I tell you, for every issue that stares you in the face, you learn something new from it. And what people pay you for as an experienced person are those experiences you have gathered over time. Then technology, evaluating and implementing new tools and systems. There was a time that we couldn't afford some technologies in my team, and I just said to one of my team members who is a certified business analyst professional, I said, guy, you be the one developing my dashboards. And we're developing our dashboard with Microsoft Excel, and it was working well and fine for us. And we were able to present information in figures, and so it was easy to understand. That's what technology does for you. Now we have Power BI, we have a lot of things that we can learn for our HR metrics. Then, fluidity. Our profession is not static. There is an element of taking what we know and applying it to another situation or scenario. That is the truth. HR is not static. HR is fluid. It's very dynamic, and you need to keep improving with it. Of course, continuous improvement. There are decisions to make today, and you, after going back, pulling back and looking at it, you feel like, oh, I could have done it better. Then you go back the next time, you know that the next time you can do it better, especially in conflict management and resolving issues bordering on staff retention. Then, the HR profession is spontaneous. There are some things you don't think about before. There was a time where to make a decision, every member of the management thought this was the way to go. I was the only one that felt, no, that's not the way to go. and I look like, are you well? Everybody will say this is well. I said no. But in few days, I was able to say, look, I just knew that was not the way, but this is actually the best way for us to go. And so I said, look, I engage with people. I have this information, I have this information, I have this information. And one thing is, HR, from that novelty to variety, HR opens you up to a variety of information. People confide in you. Please, don't ever betray people's trusts. The problem people will have with HR professionals is that they can't be trusted. They talk to you, you go and tell management. Every time people have confided in me, the management says, tell me. I said, no, I was told in confidence. If people can trust that you will not betray their confidence, people will tell you things that the management wouldn't know, and it will help to enhance your question and your understanding and your decision making. Thank you. That is just the introduction to human resource management. Next week, Saturday is the next session. So can we have your questions? If you have questions, let me see. Thank you. I see some people dropping notes. So, questions, please. Okay, question. Can we enter cash cow? Okay, Sammy, I've seen that one. Because the goal is the umbrella, is an umbrella design. Then objectives are those spokes, those spikes that are used to connect to make the umbrella stand to shield you against rain. So questions, please. Okay. Fumilola Okwebi says, please, can you speak into Kola? I know this will come in handy for a lot of you. Is Deji on this call? Deji Adebowale. I will get some people to speak to it because it's always good to also hear from people. Deji, if Deji Adebowale is not on this call, Gabriel, you were with us when we did our Kola in St. Nicholas Hospital. Please walk us through Kola.
Okay,
Gabriel.
thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. So COLA is an abbreviation for cost of living allowance. And what cost of living allowance is an addition, or is what the organization introduced to staff members of staff, to ensure that whatever they are going through at a certain time, maybe a financial, take for example now, you have inflation is on the rise. What you have, the salary you take home every month now is not enough to purchase commodities in the market. Now, the HR team sits back to say, oh, what can we introduce to ensure that the level of hardship or whatever the staff can buy now, whatever they have in their hand, can at least meet up with what is happening in the market due to inflation now. So that cost of living allowance is what is infused into the staff, into the staff remuneration, or given to the staff to ensure that he or she is able to at least meet up with par or whatever the market is seeing at that moment. So take for example now, I earn 50,000 naira a month now, and by reason of inflation now, since I have gone up in the market, my 50,000 naira can only maybe meet what is in the market of 30,000 naira. Now, an organization will sit back to say, oh, what best can we do at this moment? No, at best, it's always the HR team that goes back to the drawing board to determine that, to say, oh, at best, what can we introduce now that at least bring the level of living for our staff to whatever is happening in the economy at that moment. So now they go back to the drawing board, sit up, and now introduce what we call cost of living allowance. So now some organization does it maybe monthly. So take for example, every month now we're paying that cost of living allowance to at least meet up for you to sustain your level of the level of living you have at that moment. Some organizations can say, oh, we're going to pay a one-time tranche. So an organization may pay you 500,000. I'm earning 50,000, but you can say, oh, at the beginning of the year, I can pay you 500,000. So at least from there, you'll still be meeting up with the standard of living, regardless of the situation. So that's my understanding of cost of living allowance. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Thank you, Gabriel. Let me bring some perspective dimension to it again. Gabriel, you are right, because when we did the one we did then at St. Nicholas Hospital, it was COVID. And a lot of things just skyrocketed, and we just needed to solve. And what we were looking at initially was salary increase, salary review. So let me tell you some things. We wanted salary review, and I straightforward that we cannot afford salary review. I wanted a 50% salary review. My CFO was fighting and said we can't do it. Then we went back and they said, oh, okay, we can only consider 25% or less. So I went back to my team and I said, look, I can't put 25% increment on people's salary. And the question was why? I said, because statutory deductions will take the value of the money away from the people. We operate a progressive tax regime in Nigeria. Adding 25% of someone's salary to the current salary will take the person to a new tax bracket. And when he gets to a new tax bracket, the burden increases. So the person is not really able to feel the impact of that money. So we now say, okay, what can we do? So let's introduce COLA. What's COLA? So pay the COLA to the person off the payroll. And there's a way with the finance thing, you capture it, it's not tax deductible. There's a way it's done. And we pay. So if the increment for you is just 20,000, you get your 20,000 naira intact. And deliberately, we now also say that, look, we used to pay something called meal ticket then, some token, very minor. We said, no, let's add it to it and let's pay it on the 15th of every month. And what that does is, they will have been paid on the 25th of the month. They will have finished the salary by the first week of the new month. But by the 15th, they are getting an allowance that are also pushing. And we realize that it did a lot of things. Now, for us, we also should be mindful of the organization as well. And what should we be mindful of about the organization? When we say we want to increase salary, you know that it will impact on pension. It will impact on ITF contribution, NSITF contribution, and other statutory commitment on the part of the organization. And in a situation where you know the financial status that the organization can't really do much, what we do is say, let's introduce cost of living allowance or adjustment. Some people call it allowance, some call it adjustment. And what it's supposed to do is to cushion the effect, and deliberately, I always encourage, don't pay it with the salary. So that way, I have helped you as an organization to save some millions of naira, depending on your staff strength. And while at the same time, we have helped the staff get maximum value for what the organization is paying. Because if you give a staff 25,000 naira salary increase, to the organization, that's about 50,000 naira because of some other attendant costs. But to the person that you are giving it, the person may not get more than 5,000 naira increment. So those are some of the things, and those are some of the dynamic workings that you may begin to think around it. Then how can we do it in such a way that the burden on the management won't be too much, and at the same time, the staff will be able to get the value that is intended for that thing. And for some organizations, the cost of living allowance or adjustment varies by location. If your company operates in 5 states, for example, you operate in Abuja, you operate in Lagos, you operate in Port Harcourt, you operate in Kano, and you operate in Kaduna, the cost of living allowance or adjustment for those locations would vary. And that is where you need to arm yourself also with information about those locations where you are operating from. And that's why when you send someone on an international assignment, for those who have companies that operate beyond Nigeria, when you send someone on an international assignment, what they do is that they don't change the person's salary, but they introduce the cost of living adjustment that would augment and will provide the difference between what the person was earning at home and the cost of living abroad. So they introduce COLA, and the moment the person is back in the country, COLA is taken off of the pay. So COLA really, I see some payrolls that COLA is a permanent feature on their payroll. And that is not fair, because you now need to begin to think about what you now call it now based on a subsidy, because this subsidy regime itself now, I don't even know. Only God will help us in Nigeria. But the most important thing is you must be flexible, and you must be interested in knowing the financial health of your organizations, because that's what will begin to help you to know if you are doing well or not. And because I was privy to financial performance, financial reports on a monthly basis, it helped me to be able to say, oh, we can't do this. Okay, we can do this, we can do this. And it helps. That's the idea really behind COLA. But you can call it any other name. Oh, okay, Bumi Adebayo, you want to talk? I've done that. They should. I've unmuted a lot of people. I've given them allowed to speak. So please just confirm that you can speak. We give it to some, they still put themselves back.
Okay, Mr. Karen, can you hear me? Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. It was very insightful. Now, during your presentation, you made mention of HR having to learn how to play the politics.
Yes, ma'am.
And this thing, when you say play the politics, it is something that I detest as a person, because I see it play out in an organization and I hate it with utmost passion. And now you're speaking to it. So I need you to throw more light on, because for me, I really don't like it. I tell people the way it is. So why do I have to now, tell them it will work, meanwhile it won't work? So please, I need you to, expatiate on that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Elizabeth. As a matter of principle, for those who have worked with me, I don't make promises to staff until I have spoken to the management and I have obtained the assurance from the management. And when I obtain assurances from the management, I will stick to it to ensure it happens. Let me say, and I will use it to the politics team. I worked in a place, and Gabriel is here, Yetunde and Kwa here. When I was in St. Nicholas Hospital, we just sat down at HRM meeting one Monday and we just muted the idea of staff boss. And someone who has worked in the hospital for 22 years, who was the admin HR manager before I came, said to me straight, he said it will never happen. They have never had a staff boss before. That even when Baba was like that, they will never do it. And I said to him, I said, just wait and see, it will happen. And I just went to my MD, I said, sir, we need staff bosses for our staff. He looked at me and he laughed. I said, why do we need staff bosses? I said, for the safety of my people. I said, sir, in 1 month, 3 of my staff were kidnapped. One chance. I said, do you want a staff to die before we begin to think about it? Do you know that statement changed the narrative? And the same person that said we have never had it ended up being the person that spearheaded the process of procuring the buses. And today they have the buses there. In fact, the first bus was not procured until about a month after I had left the place. It was approved. They started the procurement process and I resigned. I entered the bus for the first time when I came to Lagos for holidays and I was going to visit my people there. And what was the politics that I'm saying we should learn to play? There are things I hate for people to take advantage of people. But in the at the workplace, it is very unfortunate that we have divergent expectations and people's demands and people's expectations. Some expectations are not realistic. And as a result of that, you realize that you can't always win. So the place of compromise is what I meant when I said the politics, is to say, sir, we're asking for 50% increment. You said we cannot afford 50% increment. Okay, what are you offering? And he says, no, I can only give 15%. I say, sir, no, we can't give 15%. Okay, can you just do 35%? Now it's politics. We're negotiating, we're discussing. I am willing, it is trade by barter, opportunity cost, basic economics. I am willing to trade off some things to get some things. And until I am able to get what I want to get in clear terms, I don't communicate those things to the staff. So the politics I'm saying is not that we sit down somewhere and we say, you know what, don't worry about the staff because our people do it. Don't worry about the staff. We'll assign money to ourselves. The staff can go to anywhere. No, you can't do that with me. Yes, I need money, but the truth is I will never betray the people. Anything that goes contrary to my personal belief and value system, you can't get me to do it. But for as long as we're fighting to say, oh, let's introduce 3 working days for our people, 2 days to work remotely, and you are competing, you say no. So okay, let's introduce 4 working days. At least I have gained 1 day free for the staff. That for me is the politics. Not anything that is unhealthy, not anything that is unethical. But it's all about at what point do I need to shift grounds to achieve and accomplish whatever I'm able to accomplish. And I can tell you straight that has helped me never to leave any employer bitter, and every employer I've worked with, they still want me back till tomorrow, because they know that when we are disagreeing on issues, they are all about issues. We are not insulting ourselves, and we're not doing anything unethical. So that's what I meant by playing the politics, man. I'm not saying anything negative about it. They want you to do anything unethical. They wanted to me to terminate a staff one time. And I said to my MD straight, I went to him and said, sir, if you are going to terminate this person, I am not going to sign it. You will be the one to sign it. And if this case goes to an industrial court and I am called to testify, I told him straight to his face, I will testify against the hospital. And what do I stand to lose? I will lose that job. I think that's the worst case that could happen. Do you understand? And I was ready for that to happen. He just started and said, okay, you know what? I agree with you. Because I told him straight, for you to sack a staff of this nature, you need to follow A, B, C, D procedures. And he reasoned. There are some that will not reason with you. They will rather call your bluff. And the truth is, you call my bluff, I take a walk. I can never be jobless and I can never be hungry. But until we all get to a point where we are not so afraid of letting go of that job so that we can get a better one, we won't be able to really promote ethical practices in HR. The reason a lot of nonsense things are happening to us is because a lot of us that have the opportunity to speak on behalf of others, we chicken out. And the moment they see that we chicken out, they just let it go. One of the jobs that I was let out, I let go of. I let go when we're discussing my performance appraisal and my salary was supposed to be increased. And it will have been increased by at least 200,000 naira. And we just had a conversation. I said to my CEO, no, you don't talk to me that way. After that time, I said, I've worked for 17 years. All my life, nobody has ever talked to me like this. Not at this stage of my career. You don't talk to me that way. And the guy told me, will you keep your mouth shut? And I said, okay, I'm not insulting you. I'm just saying, don't talk to me that way. And that was the end of the relationship. But a month later, the man came to Lagos and he called me to his hotel room and he was apologizing that though that day was in a bad mood. And today we still talk. I still give him business ideas till today. But I stood my ground to say, no, you don't talk to me that way. So that is one thing that we all need to know. We need to get to a point when we're able to stand for what we believe is the right thing. And that's a lot of HR people, a lot of HR professionals don't do. But please don't ever shift the ground for anything unethical. Don't. Because at the end of the day, it will backfire on you. Thank you, man. Any other question?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
This is Mr. Hamzat.
Good day, sir.
Can you hear me?
Very well, sir.
I just want us to discuss something. This one is in government cycle.
Okay, sir.
Consider the issue of this oil subsidy.
Yes, sir.
Our organization wish to do something for staff to alleviate their suffering.
Yes, sir.
At the beginning of the year, when they give us the budget and the amount to spend, there is nothing of such in the approved budget.
Yes, sir.
And we want to do something that will alleviate the suffering of the staff. And in government cycle, before you can spend the money must be allocated for that purpose.
Yes, sir.
So we are trying to look at some ways of doing it. And another challenge is that even our organization is not even, we receive our salary from headquarters. we receive our money from headquarters. So if you want to do something for our staff, it has to go to headquarters. If you get to headquarters must get appropriate approval for that. But the challenge is that having issue there is no fund to do that. How do we do that?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Before I talk, I know there are experienced people on this call, so I would expect 1 or 2 people to please come in and say something about this. We're all here to learn. So, can somebody please say something about this? Or should I call someone? I'll call you. But before then, please come in. Let's hear what you have to say. It's not about me, it's about all of us. And 1 or 2 of us may also learn from this. Okay, if nobody is saying anything, let me call on Madam Elizabeth Olufioye. Please, what do you think about this?
Sorry, I stood up, but I listened to the part where he said that it's not in the budget, right? But
yes,
they needed to elevate the suffering of the people. Okay, so in my organization, when there was subsidy removal, a lot of my staff were coming to me and were saying, what is HR going to do about this thing? And now, that was in June or so, yes. And we just reviewed salary in March. Not just review, we also backdated salary till January. So it was a whole lot on the organization. So for me to be able to push for it, I was a bit reluctant. However, I did that because what you were speaking to was COLA, right? But what I titled my own to be was support allowance. Okay. So it wasn't in the budget at all. So I now proposed to my head, because I'm the HR manager there. I now proposed to my head, I said, okay, for this particular, because they were like, no, they can't approve it. It's not in the budget. I told her, I said, yes, it's not in the budget, but people are suffering. People are paying times 2, especially for transport allowance. We need to help them. So she said, okay, for people who have vehicles, how am I going to do it? I said, okay, let me sort out people who do not have official vehicles, first of all, because they are the ones really suffering it. Because people who have official vehicles, the company pays for their fuel, maintenance, and the rest of it. So she agreed. So I made the proposal, did basically on transport, and it was presented to management. And definitely was approved because I had to give justification why that support allowance had to be paid. So, sir, I think you still need to push for it. It's not in the budget, but there's something they called it in finance. There's certain amounts that is set aside, that's really, how would I put it? But there's certain money that are set aside. And besides, also know that not everything in the budget, it's being carried out. It's not. So I use that strategy to be able to get approval for the support allowance. So I don't know if it speaks to his question.
Thank you very much, Ma. I have had the privilege of experiencing public service before, but where I worked, then we used to make money. We had IGR. And so there were certain things that the management, because I was opportune to be the PA to the chairman of the board. So, and I was always going to the top management committee meeting, taking minutes at their meeting. So I was privy to most of those conversations. So what happens is they do some things and the way they are codified in the books are different. If you can't control it, because there are some things, if you work in government establishments, they come from Abuja. And even your promotion, when you do promotion is not always provided for at the beginning of the year in their budget. It's always put from the service-wide vote, from the budget office of the Federation. At least when I was in the service, that was the operation. I don't know about now. So I guess okay, thank you, sir. I guess what needs to happen now, sir, is that there has to be this engagement internally. That the management internally, like Madam Elizabeth said, needs to really see the need for this. Now, there are different ways of looking at it. It's either you want to do a 3-day work week, and people rotate it, Or if you can't afford to do the 3-day work week, begin to ask. Your finance people will have a way of codifying these things. It won't create any problem. But if you send anything of that nature to the budget office of the federation, they will push it back at you. There's nothing called that one. In fact, the moment you send it, they will beam all their searchlights on your organization that something is happening. So I guess that there will have to be a lot of engagement internally between HR. That engagement is to start between HR and finance first. So finance will be able to tell you what is possible. And like Madam Elizabeth said, not all what is budgeted for gets spent at the end of the year. And what happens is they mop it up at the end of the year and you go back again. So we need to go back, engage with finance team and the top management to begin to look at how to go about it. If you have vendors who do things for you, one thing I know that had happened is you want to do staff welfare at times and there's no provision for it. Some vendors that do things for you can be used to also augment that particular one, but with the knowledge of every stakeholder that is involved in it. For someone who supplies your kitchen, if you have a kitchen, you can tell the person, pay the person for the supply of rice, but the person already knows that, okay, it's not the supply of rice, it is because we can't get the money out of the system that way. But that conversation needs to happen with the finance team, then you can escalate it upwards. I'm sure you get a solution. Then we can also talk beyond all to see what can be done, because we can always pick lessons from one another, and I'm sure a solution will be found to that. Thank you, sir. It's past 2. I wouldn't want to be keeping us beyond 2, but I hope that we have been able to learn something. Okay. Mrs. Bridget Abiola Lawan says, how do you introduce a support allowance to your staff in a retail store of less than 10 staff, considering that sales have not increased? Okay, now, whatever allowances you are going to introduce, you must have at the back of your mind the sustainability of that allowance. So the fact that everybody is saying allowance does not mean that you just must do an allowance without thinking about the sustainability. But if you look at your cash flow for the past 6 months, for example, you can literally pick that, okay, on a monthly basis, we make an average of 100,000 naira profit. And say, okay, guys, just to show that, for you to know that we are not unmindful of what is going on, I will give you 5,000 naira as transport subsidy every month to augment it. It's not much, but the desire to do it is what will be appreciated. So it doesn't have to be something out of this world. It just should be with something that is sincere, and it should be something that is sustainable. The business must keep running. The day the business stops running, those people have no job. So the business must keep running, but you can just look at whatever you can do as a way of compensating and appreciating. Say, look, I understand. This is just a minimum compensation to say, as things pick up, of course, I can still do more. And I'm sure they would appreciate it more. And anyone that doesn't appreciate it at all is simply an ingrate. Because it's not that one at that point, it's not really end, because as individuals are facing it, businesses are also facing it. And that is one thing that we as HR professionals also need to come to terms with. As we are facing it as individuals, the business is also facing it. That's why I say all we try to do is to look for a way of balancing it out. And that is where HR management comes in handy. And that's why it's dynamic, it's fluid. It's not something that is, you can't read it. Most of the things you do, sir, you can't read them inside textbooks. What you read inside textbooks is just to give you an idea, if you like a theoretical approach. But what you really do is as a result of your creative ingenuity about how to resolve issues. Thank you very much. I hope I answered that, man. Oh, sorry, the link expired. I did not open it. Give me a few minutes, I'll open it. So, any other question?
Yes.
Go ahead, man.
Can you hear me? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, man. Good afternoon, man.
Okay. Please, mine is a question, and I want to let you know that I'm new to this HRM system. So most of the things you're saying are kind of very new to me. So let me start from what I understand as an HRM from onset. I understand it to be an employee who employs for the company and ensure that the company goals are achieved through the staff. Before your lesson, which made me to understand that the HR does not only relate with the company alone, also relates with the staff as well. So from this
Yes.
ending chapter you have just said now, it's like HR focuses more on the staff, the relationship between the staff and the work. So I just want to understand, is it have to do with just the staff or the company goals as well? I don't know if you are clear with my question. As an HR, your business, is it just with the staff alone, or you have to ensure that it's balanced between the company goal and the staff's desire? That's my question.
Okay. Okay, we did talk about it earlier on. Probably you didn't join early. But you did hear me say that HR is a balancing factor in any organization. It balances the power of both the management and the staff. HR is to look out for the welfare of every member of staff, but not at the detriment or to the detriment of the sustainability of the business. Now, the HR focuses on people more because the business cannot make money if the people don't do what they're supposed to do. Do you understand? So HR focuses on the people because it is people that we use to create value for businesses. And that is why we do that. So I need to remember that. Yes, I will make noise about the people because the MD will not eat the street looking for sales. It is the sales executives that will eat the street. And if I want the sales executive to eat the street and make sales, then I need to be able to make them feel comfortable and provide the needed support for them to be able to make the sales that they want to make. Because without that sales, the MD will not achieve its aim or whatever its strategic objectives or plan has been. It is the guys at the base that performs the magic and the wonder for the business. So yes, our attention, our focus is on both sides, but we need to utilize the people to the best to be able to create the value that we desire. I'm sure that summary is enough.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Sorry, is it okay for us to? Yes, sir. We will talk. You will end this by 2:30 so that we don't drag it beyond 2:30. Our plan was for 2 hours so that we don't keep dragging this session. But if you are cool, please go ahead, Mr. Bubin.
Good afternoon, sir. Actually, I've heard a lot about my friend working in Nicola, and they tell me how good you are. So when I saw this link and I saw that you are moderating, I really wanted to join. Actually, I'm new to this departure because I speak with inventory management. So here's the question: it's not about 5P of HRM, it's about the philosophy, policy, programs, and practice. Now, my question is, because based on where I work in the hospitality industry. We have deals with drinks and food and so on. When it comes to conflict, what are the processes that HR actually needs to come in when it comes to the issue of conflict in the aspect of HR department? So what is their role and major role in that?
Okay, now that's why I said to understand industrial conflict or conflict management, you must know that in every conflict, there are two sides to every conflict. The person who reported the conflict or who initiated the conflict, and the other person who has been reported or who is involved. The third person that should be involved in that conflict is HR. And in that conflict, HR is meant to be very neutral. However, there must be a policy in the organization that speaks to conflict management, so that I don't just resolve conflict based on what I think. Everybody, whenever I want to resolve conflict, there will be a uniform way of resolving conflict. So you must have a policy on conflict resolution. And as an HR department, you must have an SOP on conflict resolution or process flow chart on conflict resolution. For every conflict, you categorize your conflicts. Some conflicts will be, he looked at me somehow. Those are some forms of conflict. And some conflict can be as a result of whatever it is. You categorize your conflicts and you define how conflict is communicated. How do you escalate conflict in the organization? Be clearly documented and communicated to everybody. So people will know that if Segun Ogunbiyi is slapped in the office, I am not expected to slap him back. Because the moment I return the slap, both of us are sacked, as documented in the employee handbook. But the moment Segun slaps me, I am to send an email to, if it is conflict@kayode.com, I send the mail to it. The moment HR receives that mail, a process is activated. So conflict management is a process. And if the processes are not followed, the steps in the process are not followed, what happens is you give a biased or a lawful judgment. But when you follow it all through, because in your conflict management, you'll have stated that if the conflict involves someone in HR, this is the procedure to follow, because the conflict can involve someone in HR. So those are things you have clearly documented, and those are the things you have to follow. But how to develop the policies is another thing that we can talk about, but we can't talk about all that today on this. But we're still going to talk about employee relations. And when we are talking about employee relations, we'll be talking a lot about conflict management. We'll be talking a lot around collective bargaining and a couple of other things like that. Okay, any other question? Please, the attendance form is on the group chat. Kindly fill your attendance for this class. Any other question? Okay.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Go ahead.
Yes. Yes. Good afternoon.
Yes.
I have a question, and what you ordered and what you got. I have about two. One was the person left the previous job for a new one, and when he got there, he was paid less than 50% of what he was
negotiated
for. So the second one is the person also left the previous job. Then he gave the previous employee a 2 weeks notice, but he left when he was supposed to resume at the new office. I think they just told him that they terminated the employment for no reason, and there was no foul notice to that. So the question I'm asking is that what steps can someone take, or what can the employer or the individual do in such cases? Because the person is not directly in the company and cannot even do anything about it. What advice can you give that?
Okay, the first one, very straightforward.
Sorry, the HR person was a lawyer. So I don't even know how the story went.
Okay.
I wasn't directly involved.
I'll tell you the truth. The fact that the HR person was a lawyer does not mean he did the right thing. But let's start one after the other. The person that resumed and was paid less than what he negotiated for. What he negotiated for, is it contained in an offer letter? Is the amount contained in the offer letter?
Yes. But he didn't collect the offer letter until resumption. Let me just put it that way.
Okay, so when he resumed, the amount they paid him was the 50% reduction.
Yes, sir.
Okay, number one, he was being stupid, and he shouldn't do that again. You don't resume in a place without first collecting your offer letter. Your offer letter is an assurance and the proof that you have an employment. And until your offer letter gets to you, don't turn in your resignation because you really have nothing. That one is like that. The second one that resigned and the new place he was going to, they also they terminated that appointment. Did he also get an offer letter?
No.
Okay, so he was stupid as well. Because this is the truth. If he has an offer letter, after resigning where he was coming from, and they now say, we don't want you again, he can go to National Industrial Court. It may take a while. They will pay him. Because an offer letter, the moment you are given an offer and you do acceptance, it means there's an understanding, you have established a relationship, you have agreed on when to resume, and I can only resume on after I had resigned from where I'm coming from, which the law recognizes. Go and check Section 11 of the Labour Act. It talks about notice period. So because the law recognizes notice period, the moment you have accepted the offer and you told them, I will resume on so date, and they say, okay, noted. See, and there's a contract, and you know, for every contract be valid, there must be an offer and there must be an acceptance. And the moment the offer has been accepted and is being communicated, it will go to court. People should stop these things. See, the truth is, all of there before. Don't ever resign without first getting your offer letter and knowing that you are totally satisfied with what you are getting. Please don't. You have no case if you have no offer letter. But for as long as you have an offer letter from that company, you have a case. See, lawyers will do it because they know that we will do nothing. In a couple of weeks from now, we're starting an advocacy. It's going through registration. And it's going to be focused on defending employees that are maltreated at work. It's undergoing registration. Issues like this will be resolved, but we always tell you, do the right thing first. Then when you are cheated, we'll take it up. The moment we start suing employers and taking them to court and winning judgments against them for that, they will start treating people very well. And some lawyers, you can literally go and make a case, and some of them can even be when they keep doing unethical practices. But those two of them, because they had no offer letter before resumption, they had no case. Sorry. Because you can't present it before anybody in court.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you for coming to class today. I hope that you look forward to the next class. However, please note that we have dropped the links to the groups on the group so that you can join your groups. We will be dropping materials. From next week, there will be case studies. And the reason for the case studies is to enhance your learning when you brainstorm together. And the case study is developed based on the content of the chapter you have to read in preparation for next week's class. So please, you have the liberty of reading, engaging on your group platforms, but all that we care about is that at the end of these 13 weeks, I will not have any reason to regret that I have wasted my time. And you will not have any reason to regret that you have wasted your time. Rather, the least amongst us will get into a place and you are given an HR manager role, you will not struggle. This is just the preamble. After this one, we will now be having like a one-off session where we talk about how to do payroll preparation, how to do HR budget preparation, and a couple of other things. Thank you very much for coming to class. If you have any questions for us on our official handle, we will respond to you. It's been nice having you in class today. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Sir.